There is an extremely important reason why these games still matter for the San Francisco Giants. And I'll tell you right now on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Alan Stiles. We're talking Giants baseball with you every weekday, Monday through Friday. And on today's show, we are breaking down why these games still matter for the Giants. A couple of different reasons why these games still matter. We have a breakdown of Buster Posey and his future, some quotes from former players, and there is a really, really good article out from The Athletic that breaks down a conversation that Buster Posey had with The Athletic and some notes on Tony Vitello and the future of both of them as well. And we end the show with some transaction news, very straightforward, some of the moves that have been made for the Giants and seeing some familiar faces come and some familiar faces go away. Let's get it started with why these games still matter. Now, yesterday's game, you just cannot find. I don't know what it is. Is it the curse of Barry Bonds? I'm just not sure. But just the left field, the outfield play. Elliot Ramos is long gone, but still Victor Barracoto. There's always going to be something. Every time a ball gets hit to left field, just close your eyes. And I know Victor Barracoto had been solid out there for the most part, and Eddie's Leonard had a crazy play last week, one of the worst plays we had thought we had seen, and then we saw Barracoto's play. So I don't know, anytime the ball is hit the left field, just close your eyes. But you had the Giants lose to the Astros 2-1, only 4 hits for the Astros, but that was enough. 1 error obviously by the Giants, 5 hits from the Giants. And, a throwback name we hadn't talked about in a while, you had Tatsuya Imai. Okay, you saw him go 3 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts with one of the craziest pitches I've ever seen in my life. It was that kind of oppo slider, if you will. Nothing much to write home about. Willy Adames left the game with that back injury. He went 1 for 3. You had Victor Barracoto 1 for 4 with an RBI, and Drew Kavanaugh was 1 for 2 with a walk as well. Christian Koss had a couple knocks, and Christian Koss has been playing pretty well. So we'll give him his flowers. But the reality, as we get into a little bit of the Willy Adames thing, we talked about his injury, and now he's out. They don't know if there's going to be an IL stint for him. There probably should be at this point in time, but people want to fight through it, and we get all that, but sometimes you just got to listen to your body. And Willy Adames has tried to play through it, and all it has done is led to the worst year of his career, the worst season of his career. So I don't think that you are making the stand or giving off what you want to give off when you do something like that. So we appreciate you trying to be a warrior, Willy Adames, and trying to fight through it, but just get right. Win the battle or win the war, even if you lose the battle. The battle's already lost. So you might as well win the war. And the war is the 5 years that are left on your contract. Okay. So that's the Willy Adames piece of it. And as we really discuss why these games still matter, it's fairly simple. And the answer is trades, right? Once the season ends, I know things could get a little bit wonky with the possible lockout, because obviously you can't make trades during a lockout. But some of these teams that don't get where they need to go this season, maybe they didn't do enough at this trade deadline, or they made moves that just didn't work out, or they lose players in free agency and they want to bolster their roster and their offense and their defense and their pitching, whatever it is. I know Willy Adames the problem is Willy Adames is out. Matt Chapman, or Willy Adames, is probably going to be out. Matt Chapman is already out. And that just leaves you with Rafael Devers. But, Rafael Devers is a guy where his numbers are starting to look or resemble some of the things that he did in Boston. Maybe somebody can be convinced during the offseason to go get him. Adrian Hauser, I think I probably buried the lead there with Adrian Hauser as the Giants buried his best start of his Giants career. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. So Adrian Hauser is a guy, another year left on his deal. Does a team say, hey, let's go get him? It's an expiring contract, so that's going to come off the books, but we can give the Giants a couple prospects. We know they're looking for young pitchers and kind of go from there. So Adrian Hauser, as he looks to get back into the rotation, and it feels like he will. I know he pitched well, but honestly, by virtue of just not having enough bodies. So that's another guy that the Giants could say, hey, we have somebody that we'd be willing to move. And if you're interested, you have some prospects that you're willing to take back. Let's make something happen there. So these games still matter for a couple reasons. The most obvious one is the development of the young players and some of these guys that are, I guess, essentially trying out for their future of the Giants, the Barracotos, the McRays, guys like that we've talked about before. And then the pitching staff, like we mentioned, you get all that. And Carson Wisenhunts, guys like that. We understand all of that. But you also have guys that are currently on the roster. If the Giants were ever interested in moving someone that is out there or someone that could be available or sought after for somebody else, that's another piece of this. So I know that doesn't really help when it comes to watching the games, and the same thing as, hey, we are watching a game that matters as the Giants are trying to make the wild card or trying to win the NL West or trying to put themselves in a position for a playoff run. I understand that, but they do matter for reasons that are a little bit, I guess, more stretchy, right? Or more of a stretch than we typically would like. But that's where we are now, and you can still get something from it. The reality is things are going to get a little weird as I have this. The lockout, if there is one, the MLB is shut down. No trades, no signings, a freeze. Essentially, a lockout operates similar to a strike. The key difference is that players initiate a strike and management starts a lockout. If a lockout is still going when the regular season begins, games are canceled. The earliest lockout can begin is December when the current deal expires. Owners are not obligated to lock out the players at that point, but are expected to. And this is from The Athletic, just kind of laying everything out. So whenever that does happen, that is when, now the reality is nobody's going to make a trade, I don't think, before the lockout, right? The season ends in November, the World Series, and then December right there is when the deal expires. So trades aren't going to happen then. So we're going to have to wait it out, see when the lockout is actually over. Once the lockout is actually over, then teams that are interested in whoever it may be, if those players on the Giants, there are a lot of ifs, don't get me wrong, but it can happen. I mean, if Rafi Devers just goes on a tear, we might look at it, and I have said, you know what, they're playing free baseball, there's nothing on the line, whatever. I don't view it the same way. But as long as teams view it the same way and say, looks like Rafi is returning back to form and we are in a more hitter-friendly ballpark, whatever it is, that's what's important. So I'll take that to the bank every single day. That is where this thing can start to improve or turn back in the right direction if the Giants are able to get off of it. By the way, as we get into this second article here, they do mention that they tried to get Rafi out of here. They tried to move him, but the amount of the contract they had to buy down at the time, it was just a lot. Now, that's also with him not performing up to the standard that he did with the Red Sox. Now, some other things came with that too, but understanding that he was three-time All-Star. That's why that's why he got the contract. That's why the Giants went and got it. By the way, he was playing third base at that time. So a little bit different. Let's get to the other side and talk about Buster Posey's future, as well as Tony Vitello, a great article and some great quotes from a great Giant as well. More Locked On Giants coming up. A big thank you to our friends at Amazon for this limited break. This back to school season, spend less on your kids with Amazon. We all know how crazy the back to school shopping experience can be. It starts with a few items on the list, then suddenly you're shopping for supplies, clothes, lunch gear, tech, and about 10 other things you didn't see coming. It adds up fast when you're having to buy supplies and you find yourself asking how a calculator became one of the more expensive items in the cart. I wasn't expecting math to start costing me money before school even begins. You got the TI-84, the TI-85, the TI-84 plus, the TI-85 plus, and that was when I was in school. I don't even know what they have these days. It feels like there's a life lesson in there somewhere. I'm still trying to figure it out though. So remember, with Amazon's low back to school prices, just spend less on your kids, because every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop back to school at Amazon and spend less on your kids. Next segment with you, and we have a couple quotes here. The first one is from Hunter Pence. Now, Hunter Pence was on Baseball is Dead, the podcast, and Hunter Pence says it's going to take time for the Giants to really become Buster Posey's team. I think it's 3 years before it starts to be his team. Well, what's funny about that is that Buster Posey is on a 3-year contract, right? I think he's halfway through a 3-year contract. So I think it's kind of it tickles me a little bit that timing is going to say, hey, well, it's Buster's team now, and we are not renewing the contract, whatever it is. For whatever it's worth, I do think that they will whenever we get to that point in time. But that's what Hunter Pence had to say. I think it reminds me of a college coach. Now, this is back in the day when before the transfer portal and all of that. You would take a team, right? For example, when we got a new coach at Temple, he had his first recruiting class and they came in as freshmen, right? And of course, JUCO guys as well, but they came in as freshmen, which means those 3 years, the sophomores, the juniors, the seniors, he has nothing to do with their existence, right? He didn't recruit them. He doesn't know them. He took the job and he's got to work around all of it. He might have an idea of who they are depending on where he came from, but he did not recruit them to play for the university, right? Now, with Buster Posey, some of the moves, whether they be good or bad, for example, Bryce Eldridge, not exactly there, or that wasn't his signing, right? Or he didn't draft him. Now, when you look at the Matt Chapman thing and where Hunter Pence maybe makes it more black and white than what it is, Buster Posey, as the story goes, Buster Posey, those talks were stalled. I guess Matt Chapman didn't know if he was going to sign an extension. Buster Posey kind of overstepped on Farhan and had those conversations. And at the time, let's not pretend like we weren't happy that Buster Posey did that. I know a lot of us were, to get that deal done. So Buster did that. Now, he wasn't president of baseball operations yet, so that might not count in Hunter Pence's timeline, but that should count because Buster Posey said, no, we're going to get this thing done. So that contract from Matt Chapman, that is part of Buster. That is not separate to Buster Posey, even though he wasn't president of baseball operations there yet. So there's an example of that. And then Willie Adames, of course, and Rafi Devers, that's all Buster. Everything else, Luis Ariz, that's Buster. You know, the Robbie Rays, I know he moved Robbie Ray, but, you know, when Robbie Ray came in, not the same thing. So it's not as black and white as Hunter Pence wants to make it seem, but I understand where he's coming from. This is an outstanding article. You can go check out the whole thing. This is from, and it talks about a lot. This is from Brittany Giroli of The Athletic, sits down with Buster Posey, and there is a lot that gets covered in here. Okay. Let me first start with some of the, I guess, negative, if you want to call it that. And she writes, Posey has no previous front office experience, making the merits of his inner circle and how he dispatches them even more important as he learns the job. Zaidi, a GM with the Athletics and Dodgers before coming to San Francisco, failed to sign big names and was criticized for trying to win too much on the margins with copious waiver claims. But to the shock of multiple rival execs, Posey's Giants have gone days this season with open 40-man roster spots, making just 2 waiver claims total from April through July. So that's just not something that the league typically sees, right? You're just not going to see that all the time, and they've questioned that. They've also questioned, as they lay out where Buster Posey is at and what is going to be his legacy. There was a rival exec that said it's either really admirable or really foolish, said another rival executive who, like others interviewed, spoke on the condition of anonymity because he wasn't authorized to speak publicly. And we'll know which when it's over, right? So Buster kind of, or the article kind of lays out everything from when Buster finished playing to obviously when he first started with the Giants, when he finished playing, and the decision when he got added to the board, and ultimately the president of baseball operations. Buster is, still really confident. I thought he had a really good line. Obviously, the Giants haven't been good, but Buster had a really good line in there where he says, I try not to sweat some opinions out there that I wouldn't ask for advice. So basically, if I wouldn't ask you for advice, I don't really care what your opinion is of me. And I think that, again, might be a little bit too black and white, but I understand where Buster Posey's coming from. And I think a lot of us could probably take that in our own life. Now, of course, I said that on social media, and somebody said, I wish he was as good at these one-liners as he is at being a president of baseball operations, right? And I kind of walked into that one. I understand why somebody would say that, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but we're all trying to get there. A couple other notes from the article that I found fascinating. There have been hits like free agent signing of second baseman Luis Ariz and the emergence of top prospect Bryce Eldridge. At the deadline, Posey received universal praise for trading 3 pending free agents, Ariz and starters Robbie Ray and Tyler Mahle, along with multiple players under team control, a haul that netted the organization 8 young players, including 5 pitchers. Posey says several times that his goal is to build through the farm system, that pitching will be a significant emphasis moving forward. So there's some positive for you about what Buster Posey has done so far. This is an interesting note from another exec. For all of San Francisco's problems, fan interest isn't one. The Giants are averaging over 36,000 fans a game, 6th best in baseball through the first week in August. With the Athletics' departure from Oakland, they're now the only team in the Bay Area. The Giants ranked 5th highest in Forbes' most recent MLB franchise valuations and are one of just 3 teams who own their stadium. Here's the quote. They should be the West Coast Yankees, said a veteran agent. They have too much money to be this bad. Now, when you lay it out like that, they own their stadium, they own their ballpark, 6th best fans, or 36,000, so 6th best attendance in all of baseball, and they're terrible right now. I think Giants fans deserve better, and we've talked about that before. Now, Buster has no control of that, and Buster has spent money where he's been allowed. So Buster has no control of that at all. But I thought that was an interesting note because it all kind of rolls in together. As they have said, we've never told Buster no, right? Or if it comes to the pitchers and all of that, we never told Buster no. Now, Buster also in the article says he doesn't necessarily says he regrets it. He did say, I felt like we had other needs that were more pressing. It was a gamble I took. He did not say he was wrong. He said it was a gamble that he took. And obviously earlier this season when he was on the flagship, he said he didn't regret some of the choices that he made. So a lot of it is the difference between Buster as a player and Buster as a president of baseball operations. Go check out the full thing. As I will close it, I thought this was fascinating. Tony Vitello told the team to treat him like a teammate. Tony Vitello told the team to treat him like a teammate, and that has left people kind of scratching their heads, okay? Lack of fundamentals is a league-wide problem, but incidents in which players didn't know the correct number of outs or cover the right base, Adames has been guilty of both this season reflect poorly on Vitello and his new coaching staff. The rookie manager told players to treat him as a teammate, which raised eyebrows. Vitello has had clear issues deploying his bullpen and leading professional athletes making tens and millions of dollars. Perhaps no moment encapsulated that more than Devers temporarily refusing to exit a June 21st game after Vitello called for a pinch runner in the top of the ninth, then storming off into the dugout. Some inside and outside the organization fear Vitello is too differential to big leaguers and wonders if he might lose control of the clubhouse if he hasn't already. Now, we have no proof that has happened, right? We have no, and she goes on to say Vitello is expected to return, but we have no proof that any of that has happened. They've just been bad, and they haven't had a lot to work with. Vitello hasn't been perfect, but he also hasn't had a lot to work with. The note that gets thrown in there about Devers is actually crazy. It says that when he was in Boston, there was a situation where I guess, and it's so funny because big leaguers doing the same thing that happens in little league, in high school, in college, everybody wants to hit first. So I guess in the big leagues, whoever's been a vet for a longer period of time, they normally get to hit first, right? This was a star vet. That's what the article says. Devers says, I want to hit first, right? The vet gets upset with Devers because that's just not how you do things. And the vet basically says or threatens, I'm going to start swinging with you still in the cage if you don't get out. So it's just stuff like that that has kind of followed Devers throughout his career. So one more time here, right? Now you have Chapman with injuries. Now you have Adames with a back thing. And Devers, they've all underperformed, but Devers underperformed. And he's known throughout the league as maybe a bit of a malcontent. That's Buster Posey so far. Now he can turn it around, and he believes he can turn it around. But that's Buster Posey so far. Along with Luis Ariz, great. Got something back for him. Got something back for some of the other guys. But that's been Buster Posey so far. And Adrian Hauser, who he moved to the bullpen and is only back in the starting lineup because of vacancies in the rotation. So that's Buster Posey so far as president of baseball operations. And me personally, I can compartmentalize, right? Buster as a player, one of my favorite Giants of all time. Top 3. Easy. President of baseball operations, not so much. But there's still time, and I know Buster is confident that he'll turn it around. On the other side, some transaction news, moves that have been made for the Giants throughout their organization. More Locked On Giants coming up. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with Daily Dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. Does Osleves Basabes get hot again? Is it time for that? Sometimes it's a hitter who's been on a hot streak, a favorable pitching matchup, or even a ballpark that tends to give up home runs. Those are always the first things I look at before making my Daily Dingers pick. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. Last segment with you, and we just have some transaction news. You have Andrew Kisner returning as the Giants. Look, they gave Eddys Leonard a lot, right? His first major league hit, his first major league game. So good on the Giants, making players' dreams come true. If they're not doing anything else, they are making players' dreams come true. So the Giants have announced they have signed catcher Andrew Kisner, and he will take the active roster spot of fellow backstop Zach Morgan, who has been optioned to AAA Sacramento. They reinstated Victor Barracoto from the 10-day. Obviously, he was in there yesterday. And Eddys Leonard, we will see you on the other side. So obviously, things are really dry right now for the Giants in the regard of catchers. Leonard, just a quick note on him, was just added to the roster a week ago. He stepped to the plate 8 times and recorded 2 hits. It seems the Giants only intended for him to be called up as a temporary fill-in while they waited for Barracoda. That puts a sour coda on what had been a feel-good story. Despite his relatively young age, it had been quite the journey for Leonard. He had a 40-man roster spot from November of 2021 through the end of 2024 with the Dodgers and Tigers without getting called up. He exhausted his option years in that span. He was then non-tendered by Detroit and spent the past year stuck in the minors. He finally made it up to the Giants this month, but it didn't amount to prove more than a cameo. But it was a great cameo, right? It was a great cameo, and he'll have those memories forever. In a season where there's not a lot to celebrate and talk about, that's one for his history books. The Giants are back at it tomorrow as they take on the Rockies, so hopefully that can boost their confidence a little bit. It is in SF, and I saw this floating around. Prices are getting a little cheap. So if you haven't got out to a game yet, I know I really wanted to as a fan, of course. I haven't been able to yet. Now's the time. Okay, you're running out of time, but I would imagine those Rocky tickets are going to be pretty gettable. Pretty gettable. So they have a 3-game set against the Rockies, and then they take off for a 3-game set against the Guardians, and then it's a showdown in Boston as Devers returns to the Red Sox. I don't know if he gets a standing ovation. I don't know what any type of tribute. I don't know what they're going to do for Devers. He might get booed just based on all of the different rumors and things like that. So that's one. There's not many to circle at this point in the season, but that is one that I have circled, and I hope that Rafi balls out and shows that they missed out on him when they traded him. Obviously, there should be some sour feelings there, at least on his end. And that's where the Giants basically sit right now. A couple other moves might be made. I know I saw Bo Davidson hit his first AAA home run. I believe that was last night. I don't know how much deeper the Giants will go because you don't want to rush people. Funny enough, the Jonah Cox jump over AAA, which honestly was before the season was completely over. So they've done stuff like that before, but I don't know that they want this to be a complete free-for-all. And you might see more Eddie's Leonards than Bo Davidsons and guys like that, honestly, because they care more about the development of these prospects than they do these guys that have bounced around a little bit and you're just kind of filling needs. So it'll be fascinating how the Giants balance all that before the season ends. I'd love to see Bo, and they did the same thing with Bryce Eldridge, but if it's kind of a fill-in role versus, hey, you are ready for major leagues, I wouldn't want to mess up anybody's development just because the Giants, the big league club, their season is all but over. So we'll see what happens there. Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Thank you for watching Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at @the_Styles Files, Styles with an I. For those of you on video, we send to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On MLB. We will talk to you tomorrow. Until then, peace.